Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself lying awake, wondering what does a man actually feel in that deepest, most intimate moment with me? Not just physically, but emotionally. Because let's be honest, society tells us that men are all about the physical, that they don't think too deeply, that it's just about pleasure and then it's over. But that's not true. And if you believe that, you're missing one of the biggest secrets about men and intimacy. Here's the reality: intimacy is not just a physical act. It's an emotional mirror. It shows you who a man really is, what he really feels, and sometimes what he's desperately trying to hide. And when you start to see that, you realize it's not just about attraction, chemistry, or the physical connection. It's about the vulnerability and emotions that rise to the surface in that moment. Now, here's why this is so important for you. Because if you want to build a deeper connection, if you want to make sure that intimacy isn't just something fleeting, but something that bonds him closer to you, you have to understand what's really happening inside him when he's at his most vulnerable. You see, a lot of women wonder, is he just here for the sex? Or does this actually mean something to him? And the answer lies in what I'm about to share with you. So today, I'm going to break this down into 5 truths, 5 powerful insights about what men actually feel in that moment. And when you understand these, you'll see intimacy in a completely new way. Not only will you feel more confident, but you'll know exactly how to create the kind of connection that lasts long after the moment is over. When we talk about intimacy, most people imagine it as the height of pleasure, the moment of pure physical connection. But what often goes unnoticed, especially with men, is just how vulnerable they actually feel in that moment. Now, I know that might sound surprising, because we're so used to seeing men as confident, strong, and in control. And in many areas of life, that's the image they like to project. Walk into a room trying to look like they've got everything handled. They pursue you with confidence. They act like nothing can shake them. But intimacy is one of the few places where that mask falls away, whether he wants it to or not. See, here's the thing: in that most intimate moment, he can't hide. He's exposed physically, yes, but also emotionally. And that can be terrifying. A lot of men won't admit this out loud because it feels like weakness. But in reality, intimacy is one of the rawest, most unfiltered experiences a man can have. It's the point where he feels, maybe without even realizing it, she's seeing all of me right now. And that feeling can either bring him closer to you or make him want to run. Think about it this way. Vulnerability is scary because it carries risk. For men, the risk is, what if she doesn't accept me? What if she's judging me? What if I'm not enough? Even the most confident man has these hidden doubts. They may not come out when he's cracking jokes or buying you dinner, but they surface in the moments when there's nowhere left to hide. And intimacy is one of those moments. Now, here's why this matters for you. When you understand that vulnerability is what he's truly experiencing, you stop taking his silence, his awkwardness, or even his ego in the bedroom as a reflection of how he feels about you. You start to realize, this is actually him at his most human. And that realization changes everything, because instead of reacting with insecurity, thinking maybe I'm not doing enough, maybe he's not really into me, you'll start to see that what he actually needs in that moment is acceptance, reassurance, and presence. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that intimacy is just about the act itself. It's not. It's about how safe you make each other feel during and after. When a man feels safe in that vulnerability, when he senses that you're not judging him, not rushing him, not treating it as a transaction, something shifts inside him. He associates you not just with pleasure, but with trust. And that's the difference between a man who walks away feeling empty and a man who walks away thinking, I want more of her. I need more of her in my life. I'll be honest, men rarely have spaces in their life where they feel truly vulnerable. They're taught to be strong, to keep it together, to not show weakness. So when he's with you in that moment, it might be the only time he gets to let go of all that armor. And if you understand the weight of that, you'll see that intimacy isn't just physical. It's a gift he's giving you. He's saying without words, this is me unguarded. Do you still want me? And your answer, spoken through your presence, your touch, your energy, can make him feel safer than he's ever felt before. That safety, that acceptance, is what makes intimacy memorable, not just pleasurable. It's what makes him trust you with more of himself. And when a man feels that level of trust, that's when he stops seeing you as just someone he's attracted to and starts seeing you as someone he never wants to let go of. One of the deepest things a man feels during intimacy, though he may never admit it, is a craving for acceptance. Now, when I say acceptance, I don't just mean tolerating him or putting up with him. I mean that in those private, unguarded moments, what a man is secretly hoping is that you see all of him, his flaws, his insecurities, his imperfections, and you don't turn away. That's powerful. And most men would never actually say that to you out loud because it feels way too vulnerable, but it's there. See, a lot of men walk around with hidden fears of not being enough. They worry, am I attractive enough? Am I doing this right? Does she like me the way I am? What if I can't meet her expectations? He may not phrase it that way consciously, but these thoughts run like a background soundtrack in his head. And in intimacy, those fears get amplified because suddenly he doesn't have the mask of bravado, the job title, the car, or any of the external stuff to rely on. It's just him. And in that moment, what he desperately wants is a signal from you that says you are enough. I want you. I accept you. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When you give that kind of acceptance, not just through your words, but through the way you're present with him, you create something unforgettable. He starts to associate you with a kind of peace, a kind of relief that he doesn't get anywhere else. And trust me, that is addictive, because most men spend their days proving themselves to the world, to their boss, to their family, even to themselves. But in your presence, in that most intimate space, if he feels he doesn't have to prove anything, you instantly become different from anyone else he's been with. Think about how many relationships break down because people don't feel accepted. One person is always trying to change the other, always critiquing, always making them feel like they're falling short. That creates distance. But the couples who thrive, they've built this foundation of acceptance. It doesn't mean you ignore flaws or never set boundaries. It means that at the core, you're saying, I see you and I still choose you. So what does this look like in practice? It can be as simple as the way you look at him, the way you respond to him, the way you stay present instead of drifting into judgment or self-consciousness. When he senses that you're not comparing him to anyone else, not silently grading him, but actually enjoying being with him as he is, he relaxes. And when he relaxes, he connects. That's when intimacy becomes more than just physical. It becomes emotional, spiritual bonding. Here's something I want you to remember, men. Don't fall in love with the woman who makes them feel the most desire. They fall in love with the woman who makes them feel the most accepted. Desire is everywhere, but acceptance, that's rare. And when you give it, not because you're settling, but because you truly value who he is, you give him something he can't find easily. That's what makes him choose you over and over again. So the next time you're with him and you wonder what he's thinking, remember this: behind all the bravado, behind the physical chemistry, there's a part of him that's silently asking, do you accept me? Do you want me as I am? And when the answer is yes, when he feels it without you even needing to say it, that's when intimacy becomes unforgettable. That's when he begins to associate you not just with pleasure, but with safety, belonging, and love. And that's what makes him not just want you, but need you in his life. When people talk about intimacy, they often make it sound like it's only about physical chemistry, two bodies coming together, the spark, the heat, the thrill. And sure, that's part of it. But what's often overlooked is the fact that true intimacy, the kind that leaves a lasting impression, is always a blend of pleasure and trust. Without trust, pleasure feels shallow. Without pleasure, trust feels incomplete. It's the combination of the two that creates magic. Now, let's think about this from a man's perspective. In those most intimate moments, yes, he's feeling pleasure. But what actually makes that pleasure powerful, what transforms it from something purely physical into something deeply emotional, is the trust that underpins it. When he feels safe with you, safe to let go, safe to be himself, safe to not have to perform or pretend, that pleasure multiplies. It doesn't just stay in his body, it seeps into his heart. Men don't always talk about trust in the same way women do, but it's there. Trust for him might look like this: can I be myself with her without fear of rejection? Can I express what I want without being judged? Can I let go without being made to feel small? When the answer to those questions is yes, what he feels isn't just desire, it's connection. That's why some men can chase physical encounters and yet feel empty afterwards, because they had the pleasure without the trust, and that combination doesn't last. On the other hand, when a man experiences pleasure wrapped in trust, something shifts. He doesn't just remember the experience, he remembers how you made him feel. He associates you with comfort, freedom, and emotional safety. He thinks, she's not just someone I'm attracted to, she's someone I can be real with. And that right there is what starts to separate you from anyone else in his life. Let me give you an example. Imagine two different scenarios. In the first, a man is with someone who makes him feel like he has to constantly impress her, perform for her, or live up to some unspoken standard. He might still feel physical pleasure in that moment, but there's always this undercurrent of pressure. Afterwards, he might feel drained, uncertain, maybe even disconnected. In the second scenario, he's with someone who makes him feel safe, someone who enjoys him as he is, who encourages him to relax, who lets go of expectations and just is with him. In that case, the pleasure is amplified, it's deeper, and afterwards, he doesn't just feel satisfied, he feels grateful. That's the power of trust. It magnifies everything. It turns intimacy into an experience that feeds not just the body, but also the soul. And here's the best part. When a man feels both pleasure and trust with you, he begins to crave that combination. He doesn't want to look for it anywhere else because he knows how rare it is. Anyone can give him physical attraction, but not everyone can make him feel safe enough to truly enjoy it. So if you're ever wondering how to make intimacy more meaningful, focus on this balance. It's not about trying harder or doing more or proving anything. It's about creating a space where he feels free to enjoy, free to express, free to let go. Because when you give a man that gift, you're not just giving him a great moment. You're giving him a memory that lingers, a feeling that makes him want to keep coming back, not just for the pleasure, but for the trust that made it so powerful. One of the biggest misconceptions people have about men is that once intimacy is over, they just switch off. You've probably heard that stereotypes. Men don't get emotional. They just roll over and go to sleep. And sure, some men do act that way. But that doesn't mean they don't feel something. It just means they may not show it in the same way you do. The truth is, intimacy always leaves an echo. What happens in that moment doesn't end when the physical act ends. It reverberates afterwards, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. Here's what I mean after intimacy. A man will sit with how he feels about you and about himself. If the experience was purely physical without emotional connection, the echo might be emptiness. He may feel restless, detached, even confused. He got the pleasure, but there's no anchor, no deeper meaning. So the echo fades quickly, and sometimes it even leaves him feeling worse than before. On the other hand, when intimacy carries trust, acceptance, and connection, the echo is completely different. He feels closeness, gratitude, even a little awe. He leaves that moment not just thinking that was great, but I feel closer to her. I feel something real. Now, why is this important for you? Because the echo is what determines whether intimacy becomes a bonding experience or just a fleeting one. Think about it. If a man leaves your presence feeling more connected to you, he's going to seek that connection again. If he leaves feeling distant, he might avoid it, even if he can't explain why. And here's the kicker: most men don't consciously analyze this. They don't say to themselves, the emotional echo afterwards was empty. Instead, they just find themselves either craving you more or pulling away. This is why it's so powerful to be intentional about the energy you bring to intimacy. Are you just going through the motions, or are you present, engaged, and open? Men notice the difference, even if they can't articulate it. The way you look at him, the way you touch him, the way you stay present afterwards, all of that contributes to the echo he carries with him. And that echo, more than anything, shapes how he feels about you long term. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man is intimate with two different women. With the first, the experience is physical, fun, but shallow. When it's over, there's no real emotional connection, no talking, no affection, no sense of closeness. He leaves feeling like something's missing, even if he can't put his finger on it. With the second, the experience carries warmth. There's laughter, eye contact, affection afterwards, maybe even meaningful conversation. He leaves not only physically satisfied, but emotionally nourished. Guess who he thinks about later? Guess who he wants to come back to? It's not the first, it's the second, because the echo matters. So when you hear people say, men only think about the physical, I want you to remember this. Men are just as affected by the emotional echo as women are. They might not say it, they might even deny it, but their actions will tell you the truth. A man who feels connected afterwards will keep coming back. A man who feels empty will drift away. That's why I always say intimacy isn't just about what happens in the moment, it's about what happens after. The way he feels walking out of your door, the way he thinks about you the next day, that's what really counts. Because if he's carrying the right echo, He's not just remembering the intimacy, he's remembering you. And that's what makes the bond last. At the end of the day, no matter how much men pretend they're casual about intimacy, there's one truth most of them won't say out loud. Deep down, they're craving meaning. They don't just want pleasure, they want significance. They want to feel like what's happening with you isn't just another encounter, but something that actually matters. Now, this might sound surprising because society has sold us this stereotype that men only care about the physical, that men are simple, visual, and surface level when it comes to sex. And sure, on the surface, a lot of men play into that image. They'll talk about the physical, they'll joke about it, they'll even act like that's all they need. But peel back the layers and you'll find that what they remember, what sticks with them, is never just the physical. It's the meaning they attach to that intimacy. Think about it. Physical pleasure is everywhere. A man can find that easily. What he can't find easily is intimacy that feels purposeful, intimacy that makes him feel alive, seen, and connected. That's why even men who chase casual encounters often admit that something feels empty afterwards. It's because the craving for meaning wasn't met. And the truth is, that craving doesn't go away. It sits there under the surface waiting for the right person to fulfill it. This is where you come in, because if you're able to turn intimacy into something meaningful, you instantly separate yourself from every other experience he's ever had. Meaning is what transforms you from just another woman he was with into the woman he can't stop thinking about. And the beauty is, you don't have to do anything extreme to create that meaning. It's not about tricks, performance, or pressure. It's about presence, connection, and authenticity. When a man feels like intimacy with you is more than just a physical act, that it's a moment where he feels loved, chosen, and significant, you're tapping into his deepest emotional need. He may not have the language for it, but he'll feel it. And when he does, he won't just crave your body, he'll crave your presence. He'll crave you. Let me put it this way, men don't fall for the woman who gives them the wildest physical experience. They fall for the woman who gives them the deepest emotional experience. And when you tie intimacy to meaning, that's exactly what you're doing. You're showing him that this isn't just an act, it's an expression of something real, something that's about both of you, not just him. And here's the thing, when a man gets that from you, he won't want to risk losing it. He'll start to see you differently. He'll see you as someone who brings depth into his life, someone who makes even the most physical moments feel like they carry weight. That's rare, and men know it when they find it. So the next time you're wondering how to stand out, how to make intimacy truly unforgettable, remember this, give it meaning. Show him that this isn't just pleasure, it's connection. Because when you do, you're not just giving him what he wants in the moment, you're giving him what he craves long after the moment is over. And that's the kind of intimacy that doesn't just satisfy, it bonds. That's the kind of intimacy that makes him look at you and think, she's different, she's the one. So let's bring this all together. We started with a question so many women have: what does a man really feel in those deepest, most intimate moments? And now, it's not just about the physical, it's about vulnerability. It's about his craving for acceptance. It's about how pleasure and trust work hand in hand. It's about the emotional echo that lingers afterwards. And ultimately, it's about his deeper desire for meaning. And here's the takeaway: when you understand these truths, you stop seeing intimacy as something shallow or transactional. You start to see it for what it really is, a window into his soul. You realize that in those moments, you have the power not just to connect with his body, but to bond with his heart. And when you give him that, when you make him feel safe, accepted, trusted, and deeply connected, he doesn't just want you in the moment. He starts to see you as unforgettable. So here's my challenge for you. The next time you find yourself in that space with him, don't just focus on the act itself. Focus on the experience. Be present. Show him acceptance. Create trust. Let the moment carry meaning. Because when you do, you're not just giving him pleasure, you're giving him a connection he won't be able to get out of his mind. And if you found this helpful, I want you to do two things right now. First, hit that like button and subscribe, because I've got so many more videos coming your way that will help you decode men and build the kind of love life you truly deserve. And second, I want you to drop a comment below. Tell me which one of these 5 truths resonated with you the most. Was it vulnerability? Acceptance? The emotional echo? I'd love to hear from you, and I read every single comment. Remember, intimacy isn't just what happens in the moment, it's what happens in the heart afterwards. And if you can touch his heart, not just his body, that's when you create the kind of connection that lasts